Our intro to today is Jaeleen Robledo, who fights Riley Martinez at Invicta 61. That fight is on April 4th. So, Jaeleen, I wanted to start here. You have had a relatively quick rise in the world of MMA. You
Yeah.
went pro just 16 months ago, and now here you are on this big Invicta card. So,
Yes.
what does it feel like for you? Does it feel like a kind of a fast rush to the top?
Well, actually, this is kind of what we expected just because of how much time we put into training and we had a vision of just getting to my goal is obviously the UFC, so racking up as many fights as I can. And me being young, I'm only 21, I wanted to do as quickly as possible. So I had a fast amateur career and I'm hoping to have a fast pro career as well and hopefully get into the UFC soon.
So, you said that this is sort of expected. This is sort of what you
Yes.
wanted. How
Yes.
long have you wanted this in MMA? Like, were you a kid growing up knowing you wanted this?
So funny thing is I didn't. I was always I grew up watching combat sports, but I was always more into the pro wrestling scene. And my dad was more into the fighting scene. So he would tell me like, "Oh, you're gonna do MMA and this is gonna be good for you." And I would always tell him, "No, I'm not." But I ended up wrestling in high school and I fell in love with MMA in my senior year. So it's been pretty crazy so far.
So, did you dream of being in the WWE? Did you dream of doing pro wrestling?
Oh yeah, yeah. That's been since I was a little kid, but being around in this world is just, a great feeling. So, I fell in love with all everything about it.
Well, that's great to hear. Now,
Yeah.
I want to talk to you a little bit about the weight class, obviously, because,
Hmm.
Invicta is making a commitment to 145 right now.
Yes.
What do you think about the way that they're sort of building out the divisions and some of the names you see in it?
I think it's great. I mean, we have three featherweight fights at Invicta 61. So, having putting a lot of eyes on the featherweight division is definitely a must. And seeing that the UFC kind of went away from the 145 division and seeing how Invicta's putting a lot of spotlight on it, I think it's great. I think that you're going to see a lot more of it in the future. And hopefully, we have atom weights as well. So you're seeing a lot of eyes on the weight classes that we don't really have. So I think it's great. I like the division. The other matchups are pretty good too. So it's going to be interesting.
And is it interesting for you, being that you don't not usually on a card with a whole bunch of other featherweights, right?
Yeah.
These are all your future opponents, right? Or at least some of them probably future opponents. Do you have your eyes on some of them?
Mm, I mean, yeah, I do. But I like to, let things happen how they're going to happen. Just because, you can never plan for anything. So, we'll see.
All right. Well, I want to
Yeah.
talk about this fight with Riley Martinez in a second, but
Yes.
before I do, I got to do a quick switch here and talk to you about your fight nickname because I'm
Mhm.
a big fan of where fight nicknames come from. You got
Yes.
one that's somewhat unique, but we've got Randy Couture out there. We've got Kyle
Yes.
Ohio who've used the natural. So
Yeah.
give me how you became the natural and where
S-
the inspiration came
Um,
from.
my family gave it to me just because of when I train, I pick up things very quickly and I'm a fast learner. So they thought that the natural just fit me so perfectly, and I think it does.
So which member
It's
of
not
your
as
family?
interesting as I would hope, but yeah.
Well, which member of your family is the one who's given you a fight nickname?
Well, my brother and my dad like to go back and forth on it, so I'll give credit to both of them for that.
I like it. I like it. Now,
Yeah.
out of curiosity, you said you came from a wrestling background. You wrestled in high
Yes.
school. Did
Yes.
you have inspirational sort of fighters that you sort of like to mimic after?
I am a big fan of Cain Velasquez. He's been one of my favorites growing up and a family favorite as well. So Cain Velasquez, Nate Diaz, just those cool guys that just go out there and fight. So they're definitely a big inspiration for me. And right now, my current person that I kind of aspire to be is Ilia Topuria, just because of how well-rounded he is and the way he represents himself. So, yeah, those are like the top people that I've really looked up to.
I like that. Well, and that leads
Hmm.
me perfectly into talking about my next question because you get the
Hmm.
name Riley Martinez, and we're talking
Yes.
about styles here. So tell me a little bit when you got that name and they offered you her as your upcoming opponent.
Mhm.
What did you sort of think of her style?
So a funny thing, we actually have been watching her for a while. I think even before I went pro, I we like to keep eyes on the entire featherweight scene. So we already knew who she was. We knew how, she's 4-0. She's had first round finishes. She's dominant. So her style, I feel like it matches up perfectly with mine because I can be any fighter that I want to be. I could be a striker. I could be a grappler. I'm just well rounded. So I feel like whatever style she brings, I can match it up perfectly.
And so now you said in there too. I want to talk about this because you said
Mhm.
we keep an eye on the featherweight division. So I'm
Yes.
curious, what does your tape watching look like, and who are you doing all of this tape watching with?
So my dad and we are very, very into the whole scene. We pay attention to all of these girls. We game plan and we look at the future opponents potentially and everything. So that's kind of like our job. So my dad keeps tabs on everyone, and I follow his lead.
I like that. And what is
Yeah,
it like having a dad that's, I mean, obviously he was interested in the sport already, but what is
yeah,
it like
yeah.
having a dad who's doing your homework for you, essentially?
Oh, it's great. I let him do it. I tell him, go ahead, tell me what I need to know, and we're good to go. So we have that great duo. We're great partnership, and we make it work. So it's pretty amazing having someone like that, like in my corner.
That's awesome to hear. Now,
Yeah.
we just talked about the stylistic matchups
Hmm.
of Riley Martinez, and you gave us a little bit about how you feel you match up with her. But,
Hmm.
give me some details in here. How do you see a fight with Riley Martinez going down?
I think that she's not afraid to strike. She's not afraid to grapple. So it could be very unpredictable with her. I think that the fight can go anywhere. We can stay on the feet. We can go to the ground. But just being overall prepared for whatever position you're going to be getting into in the fight. That's how you're going into this fight. But I think fighting someone like that is pretty cool. You have people that are just strikers or just grapplers, but she's not afraid to do anything. So I like that going into this fight.
All right. Well, you've led me
Yeah.
perfectly to my last question. I love to end these things with a prediction. Some fighters hate it, some fighters don't, but I got to ask, how do you see this one ending come April 4th?
Oh man. See myself getting the finish. I can finish it on the feet. I can finish it on the ground. I'm confident in my abilities. I'm confident in my skills, and I'm sure we're going to put on a show in Invicta 61.
All right. Well, you heard it here
Yeah.
first, folks. This is Ben Jaeleen Robledo, who fights Riley Martinez. That fight is at Invicta 61. And once again, that fight is on April 4th. Jaeleen, thank you so much for the time. I
Thank
really
you so much
appreciate
for
it.
having me. Thank you.